Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Cervello Live. I hoped to be in my. I'm in lockdown again, so I'm recording this from home. But I was hoping to be in my home office today. I'm getting the Wi-Fi installed over the weekend, so hopefully next time I see you, I won't have a picture of a cow behind me with the horns sticking out. It looks like they're my horns. I've had to put the camera down to do that. But we have got an amazing guest today, a lady called Claudia, who's a coach. And speaker coach. She helps people speak for a living. She runs a business called Be Empowered. Really interesting conversation with her about the work she does, but also her experiences in healthcare and how that's informed how she works with business leaders to help them. And certainly, I think there's probably lessons we can learn from that environment that we could potentially learn in our business. So, I had a really interesting conversation with Claudia. I'm going to share that with you in a little while. But for now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a experience I've had quite recently with a couple of the clients that I've been working with that I think all business owners need to learn from. The reason being is because if you've got a business and it's in a position where it's grown and you employ it, or you're in a position where you've got fellow directors, we've been working with a couple of businesses who have been thinking about what happens if the worst occurs, like in the event of their deaths. Are their families going to be okay? And are the fellow directors of the business going to be okay? And what we found is that one didn't have anything set up at all in terms of protecting both their families and the fellow directors in the event of death. But we also found that there was a business who spoke to somebody to set up some live cover and some protection in the event of death, but didn't set up correctly. Now, to be frank, if the life cover isn't set up correctly, you could be paying for no reason and doing more harm than good because you're assuming you're covered and you're not. And that isn't a case of paying more money for better life cover. That's a case of setting it up in the right way. So what I want to do today is share with you 3 things business owners should do and should check to protect their business today. So the first one I'm going to talk about is key people. So first thing I'd do as a professional, if I was asked to come into a business, is say, who are your key individuals that if they weren't in the business would have a direct impact on profits? Now, typically in a small to medium sized business, that usually always includes the directors, but it could include your ops manager, it could include your salespeople, it could include somebody who was very technical, highly technical in your business and had knowledge that would be really difficult to replace. So, first question that I'd ask any business owner is, who are your key people and what would it be, what would it cost to replace those individuals? And bear in mind that there's not only the lost productivity or the lost profit, you've also got things like recruitment costs, you've got things like the time it's going to take to train a new individual to the standard that the experienced individual you've got is losing. And all of that you need to consider when thinking about that. Now, some companies say, you know what, we're robust enough as a business so that if we did lose one person, it wouldn't have an impact on profits. But certainly most businesses I know, there would be an impact on profits if you lost some of those key individuals. So first thing you can do as a business owner to focus on to make sure you're fully protected is look at your key people, highlight what would happen in the event of their death or serious illness, and say, I need to make sure that if that happened, I'd lose this amount of profit. It'd cost me this much to recruit. I need to make sure that I've got that money in to make sure that I can continue in the right direction. So highlight your key people, focus on what financial loss you'd make if they weren't around, and do something about replacing that. Next one, this is super important. So you've built a business, your shares started off at a notional 100 quid, as most businesses do, but now your shares have got serious value. Now, if you've built a business in conjunction, in partnership with somebody else, you're going to be in a position where there's an arrangement there so that what would happen in the event of either partner's death needs to be discussed. Because typically what happens is the shares would go to the spouse, the family of the director who had died, the director or partner who have died. But then you've got a situation when the spouse owns the shares, potentially they might not want to carry on running the business with the surviving partners or directors. They might just actually want to sell those shares back to the surviving partners and directors so that they can carry on running the business. However, often there's not enough money, spare cash, in the partners and directors' bank accounts or in the business to actually buy those shares back. And that's why it's so important to think about, in the event of a partner or director's death, what would happen? So the shares would go to whoever that partner or director had put in their will. But what would you ideally want to happen as a business to carry on running? Now, if you've got spouses involved in the business and they're happy to take an active part, and every partner and director is happy about that, well then good. At least you know where you stand. But certainly a lot of the businesses we work with, you're in a position where, spouse or partner's got their own thing going on, they've got their own lives, probably not going to want to get involved in a direct and active part of the business, but do need to be paid fairly for the value of the shares at that time. Now, a couple of really important things to mention there. Firstly, if you've done this a little while ago, if you've put life cover in place a little while ago, you need to confirm that the life cover is still linked to the value of the business, because we've had cases where a employer has, a couple of directors have put in shareholder protection in the early days of their business. But the good news is their business has grown, and actually the cover they've got in place to buy those shares back doesn't represent the true value of those shares, because the business and the profits have grown. So I'd suggest that you probably need to look at this at the very least every 3 to 5 years as the business develops. What you also need in place is something called a cross-option arrangement. And what that means is that if the spouse wants to sell the shares back to the director, great. If the director wants to buy those shares, great. And they've both got the option to do so. Now, why is a cross-option arrangement really important? If you force, it's called a buy-sell arrangement. If you force the director or the spouse to sell those shares, you're in a position where what happens is there's inheritance tax implications, and quite serious ones. Now, I appreciate that I'm sort of digging in the weeds a bit here and going quite complex, but the important point is make sure that you've got an arrangement in place called a cross-option arrangement, so that in the event of a director or partner's death, the money goes to the right place, and both the surviving spouse and the surviving directors have got the option to do what they need to. And that's part 3. So part 1 is focused on key people. Make sure you're getting a cover in place to protect key people. Part 2 is make sure you're in a position where, in the event of a director's death, you know where the shares are going, and you know ideally what you'd like to happen. Do you want the spouse involved, or does the spouse need to be paid so that the company and the surviving directors can buy those shares back? And number three, make sure that you've got all of the correct legal arrangements and trust arrangements in place to make sure that's going to happen. Because in our experience, we've seen cases where people have put in place life cover, either bought it online or spoke to somebody who didn't understand this stuff. And as I say, I'm digging in the weeds because it can be quite complicated. But make sure that you've got cross-option arrangements in place, a business trust in place, not a personal trust. You shouldn't use a personal trust for business protection. A business trust in place, because if you haven't, all this good work and all these premiums you've paid and all this sort of assurance you've got about protecting your business and your family should the worst occur might be not worth the paper it's written on. So it's really important to make sure that you know what you've done is right for you. So that's my little share for today. Hopefully that's been useful. Certainly, we're always at Cervello happy to review those arrangements if you'd like us to. And certainly, we're getting a lot of experience from accountants at the minute who are looking to support their clients and saying, have you got those provisions in place and have they been set up correctly? So if you'd like us to do that on either your client's behalf if you're an accountant or your behalf if you're a business owner, feel free to give us a shout. You can contact me at chris@cervellofp.co.uk, and you can phone the office on 01708 606 202. And before I introduce our guest for today, just want to give a shout out to the white paper that we had published about a week and a half ago now, that we're getting really amazing feedback from. So it's called What Happens Next. It's where we explored through a survey we did what people are thinking about when they're planning for the next stages of their life. And we shared some of the tools that we use here at Cervello with our private clients to get them to a point where they're making some really important decisions, but doing it really well. So you can find that. I'll make sure that Russ, who edits our videos and puts this on our social media, puts a link in the show notes. Feel free to click the link and download that. It's completely free. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think. On that note, and so I can enjoy a sip of tea, here's my interview with Claudia.
Hello, Claudia. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Now this is take two, and take one didn't go particularly well because number one, you called me by my brother's name. Let's just put that out there. And number two, my mic wasn't working, so we didn't catch the amazing introduction you did about you. So I'm really sorry.
An opportunity.
I know we're gonna hear it again, but for our audience, it will be the first time. So. For our audience, because they haven't heard it yet, tell us a bit about you.
Okay, my name is Claudia Welsh, and my company is called Be Empowered A1. It was originally called Noteworthy, and after looking at what it is that I would like for my clients to benefit from, we decided to call it Be Empowered A1. It's empowering people, in particular leaders, to speak with authority, to communicate well. I offer leadership mentoring, and I also do some life coaching. Now, my background is in healthcare. Originally, my last job was as a senior manager in the independent sector, where I was very instrumental in building a brand new hospital from scratch. Now, this hospital was inspected by a CQC, and we got outstanding. And I thought to myself, wow, that's really good. Now, what is next? Now, I look around to see the things that I love and enjoy. I enjoy chatting a lot. I'm a member of Toastmasters International, vice president of my club. I do walking. I love to communicate with people, and I love to teach. I love to train and impart knowledge. And I do all of that together, and that's how my company is formed. Now, what I do when I go out there is I make sure and tell people about empowerment. The thing is, a lot of us have very good hard skills. We know our jobs at the back of our hands. We know how to do it with our eyes closed. The thing that is tricky is our soft skill. How well do we communicate? How well do we appear as leaders? Because these things can be the make or break of our businesses. What is the perception out there of you as a business person, as a leader, as a team player? What is the perception of you? And I help you to get the right perception of yourself, your company, your business. So yes, that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. Right, a couple of questions I've got off the back of that then. Firstly, tell me a little bit about Toastmasters and what you get from being part of that organisation. And what is it for our viewers who don't know?
Okay. Toastmasters is a public speaking group. Now, many moons ago, about 94 years ago, there was a guy called Smedley, Mr. Smedley. And he was at the YMCA for young men, trying to train them. And he realized that they were good at what they do, but they did not understand very well how to craft their leadership skill. And they were not good speakers to represent themselves very well. So he started out this company. Well, it's more of a group to start with. And he started out and say, okay, I'll give them some training on these skills. Now, when he started, it worked a little bit and then it fall off. And that's to teach us that sometimes we start something, we have the right idea, but when we start, we don't know until we start. And if it doesn't work, not a big deal. What he did, he went and he started again.
It sounds quite like our interview this morning, right? You know, we had take one, and take one didn't work. You just do it again.
Fantastic. So he had a take two. Yeah. And a lot of people will start their business. They know what they want to do, but they don't know how to go about it. So, there are hiccups along the way. And he just experienced just that. Now, his focus was twofold. One, to get everybody speaking, as young men speaking, and two, to practice leadership. So we set up Toastmasters. And what you get in Toastmasters, they teach you how to speak impromptu. And a lot of politicians, for example, will do that. A reporter will go over and ask a question, and the politician will answer. And he or she has to know how to answer that question in a way that is informative, useful, and it makes him look as if he knows what he is representing. Even if he doesn't, you will not get a hint. So impromptu speaking, then we have prepared speeches. How do I write a speech? What it is I want to say? Your introduction, your body, your conclusion, how to put them all together. And not just about the speech, how to appear. If I'm talking about to a corporate entity, I won't come looking laissez-faire relaxed. If I'm talking about horses, I might want to wear a suit that match me going horse riding or something like that. So that is the impromptu speaking, the prepared speech, and then it speaks about leadership. And leadership in the sense of organization. So we get things like timekeeping, grammarian, giving a report about people's drama, and organizing events around Toastmasters. So there's a lot learned there. And in that, you meet new people, you network, and it keeps you buzzing and current. Because everything that we do now will change with the time. And Toastmasters for 94 years, very current. My club is in Hammersmith and it's called West London Speakers. I've been twice president there. I'm now the outgoing president and I do mentoring in that club. So new members will come in and find them mentors so that they can have a good experience. And you keep a mentor for a short time, then you move on to other people who have different expertise that you wish to learn and garner.
It's really
that's about the Toastmasters.
I tell you what's really interesting. That so I was before this call. I run a group in my local area. We've literally just set up on Facebook called Havering Means Business, and I thought it'd be it's about coming up to 300 members. By the time this comes out, there's probably a few more. We've grown that over the last couple of weeks because I think there is in certain local areas a real demand for business people to support other business people, and I wanted to be the catalyst behind that. So started this group, and I thought it'd be a good idea because we're recording this day one of lockdown number 2. It's going out next week, but day one of lockdown number 2. I thought it'd be a really good idea to jump on a video call on Facebook and see who else jumped on. And it's always that worry, Claudia, when you do something new, that you're going to be on your own, you know, like just sitting there going, does anybody want to chat on this morning? And thankfully a few people jumped on, and we had like an impromptu sort of networking thing. And a friend of mine, Dave, who actually I go to the gym with and is a business person, is a business coach, said something really interesting this morning that relates to what you just said. He said he's working on his business at the minute, and he's building online content. And I said to him, is that going to be your business moving forward, or are you going to still see clients on a one-to-one basis? And these clients are typically turning over 2 million to 5 million, so they're medium-sized businesses. And he said something interesting to me. He said, Chris, I'm not going to stop working with those clients because I don't want to lose the face-to-face advice. I might have an idea that I think is really good, but I need to keep on practicing what I do so that I continue to get better. And I 100% get that. You know, that like sharpening the saw is really super important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And that's how you find your teacher. So I'm no longer in the hospital setting as a senior manager, but I do volunteer in the hospital, and I do some work in the hospital, and that's part of how I generate my clientele as well. And what it does is you're constantly being taught. So the networking group, the Toastmasters, the environment where you put yourself, they continue to keep you current. Plus, you've got to attend, a few training here and there and conferences to know what your peers are doing, and so you can share ideas. So I am big on networking. I am not particularly limiting myself to a particular network, although I do have my primary, I must say. And those are what you have to go out there and make it a wide networking community where you continue learning to get your clients and to ensure that everything you're doing is current. I need that those things help.
100%. And the other thing I was going to ask you was, so that CQC outstanding mark, that's got to be quite tough to get, right?
Yes, oh gosh, it was tough. And I tell you, when it came to the leadership, when it came to that at the hospital I worked, it was good. It brought together what we needed, and it's people who got outstanding in their area came around and helped. So it wasn't just us sitting on our own getting outstanding, not at all. It was everybody coming together and helping, but we were willing. So we had a steering committee, and I was a part of that steering committee. And what the steering committee does, we go to different hospitals and we do something like a check and see how people are setting up their department, if we are constant with each other, and so on. And what it sharpens your mind as to what high quality or high standard of service should be. Your mind gets heightened by that. So all of those skills come together. Then the staff, getting people involved is very, very important. So when you're doing leadership, you have to remember you might be a good leader and your hard skills might be good. Getting people on board, if you can manage people well, that's a good job. Getting people on board is highly important. Listen to their opinions and their contributions. Give them credit away and credit yourself, and share the good and the bad. You have to know how as a leader to do that, but let them be a part of the experience. So yes, it was very, very hard work, long hours and so on, but the reward at the end was worth it. 100%. And right now, a lot of us have gone on to do bigger and better things. A few of us have gone on to start our businesses. Some of us have gone on to other companies to work at higher levels, and some of us have been promoted within. So all overall, yes, it's good, and it's a good lesson learned for leadership.
So
And sometimes in that, tough decisions have to be made.
yeah.
And it has to be made by you. I consider myself somewhere in like a middle management, and at the very top above the higher management for the whole hospital. Sometimes you got to take decisions because there's directives coming from above, and you have to disseminate, and there are requests coming from below, and you have to send it up. So it's a good education and good learning.
Okay, so just very briefly, talk to me about the 3 things that you've learned from your background in healthcare and working in hospitals that you think applies to leadership, business, what you're doing now.
Okay, so one of the things is I've learned that it is very important when you go for interviews for a job to also look at who will be leading you. Now, you may have a corporation that's doing well financially on paper everywhere and so on, and you come and you interview. Interviews are not just about the person interviewing you to come on board. Interviews are about you also checking out who's going to be in charge. Because if you get the wrong leader to be working under, it will be difficult. It can make or break your career. It can make or break you as a human being. So in business, it is important when you're doing business, if you have a business partner, check that person out properly, check their integrity, observe, watch and see what their leadership style is like, if it's compatible to yours. That has got to be important. So never go somewhere thinking that you are the one, you have to impress them alone.
Yeah, it's got to be a partnership, hasn't it? You know what's interesting? I think that applies to everything because certainly when we take clients on now, we make it clear that even though they're the fee-paying client, that what we're interested in isn't just their money. You know, we need income to run. We want a partnership that's going to be a win-win partnership over the next 20 years. And actually, when you explain what you want to do with clients, I think they're in. Do you know what I mean? The right client says yes, the wrong client says no, and we've learned that actually that's fine.
Yeah, it's okay, yes. It's better to have a small group of really good clients than a whole host and have a lot of problems.
Well,
and that's why
So what's interesting is we've found that what tends to happen then is those clients that we really want to work with and we really love and are part of the Cervello family then refer their mate to a similar to them. So actually you then develop a culture of working with certain types of people who really get what you do.
Definitely. Yes. And then a second one, number 2, as a leader, I always say, look after yourself. If you cannot take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anybody. You can't lead well, you can't be effective. So put work aside a little bit. What do you enjoy doing? If you enjoy tennis, make sure you get that in. Family life, make sure you get it in. Health-wise, go down to the gym, go for a walk, make sure you get that in. It is important when you're in healthcare, it's a very demanding job, extremely demanding. And we work hours that, other people work 9 to 5 and they go home and they can choose to work later when they go home in their private office. No, our patients are there.
Yeah.
But how do you look after yourself as a leader? How do you lead the people who are following you to look after themselves? And you're the example that they have to follow. When you can turn up to work early, participate when necessary. If you have to roll the sleeves up, show that you can do that. But outside of all of that and getting on with the team, you've got to make sure that there is time for you. So looking after yourself is paramount. If you can't look after yourself, there's a chance that there's a lot of things that you won't be able to look after. And it's very key.
I'd imagine in healthcare that's really difficult though, isn't it? Because the pressure on the amount of hours you need to work is probably tougher than most sectors. So when you're working with, because I know you do some work with doctors, don't you, and consultants.
Yes.
So when you do the work with doctors and consultants, how do you encourage them to get the balance a bit better?
Oh yes. Well, when I used to have my consultants around in a department setting, I'd make sure that when they come in, let us say the work started 5 o'clock in the evening to 8. Let us just say that. I'd make sure the first 15 minutes is a time for them to get some refreshment, a cup of coffee, a simple chat, something to take their mind off long drive, something to take their mind off, whatever they have done, a little time to unwind. You might say, oh, that time could have done, you could have put 10 minutes on it and have done an ultrasound or something. No. I've taught them that when they do come, while it is important to do the work, it's also very good to just come and take that 15 minutes to refresh themselves, to feel, energized and go right back to it.
But then you're talking about the difference between being effective with your time and just being busy. And actually, you can get more done if you're effective, right?
Thank you. Because the next thing is you can just rush from your car park and rush to the first station. And guess what happened? You misdiagnosed. Why? You were too rushed. Your frame of mind wasn't there. So sometimes it's better to do, as I said, 10 good patients than 11 and make a mistake. Just saying. Yeah. So the money is important, but you're also important. I love to do a lot of things. I go walking outside of work. I go walking on a Sunday morning. I have a walking group. I do my Toastmasters in the week. You have to make time for yourself. Timetable it and stick to it. Lunch, don't cut it out. Do not underestimate the power of a good meal.
You know what? It's really funny. I said to the guys in my office the other day, and clearly we're now in lockdown, so I'm working from home again. But I said I had a really busy day on Monday, and every time I was sort of going for lunch, a call came in, and it was just one of those days. Normally, I'm really quite disciplined about getting lunch and eating, and I got to about 2:30. And I said to Herv in my office, I can feel myself getting grumpy now because I haven't eaten. Do you know what I mean? My actual mood is changing, and I'm being a bit more snappy with people just because I haven't, number one, taken a walk in a while because I always go out and get my lunch, and then number two, haven't eaten, and it's incredible when you look at the impact of just those simple habits. I mean, for me, I know you said you're a walker. I'm a very slow runner. I mean, like my running's so slow, it might as well be walking. But certainly physical activity is fundamental. And it's weird. I find my mood changing when I've not exercised for a couple of days. So all of that stuff, I think. I'm the same as you. I think that. Sorry.
I was saying, I think that in lockdown, it might be there are lots of disadvantages that we can point out, but there are lots of opportunities that are there. So if you're working from home, I tell people, make a timetable for your day, just like you would be at work. You go off for your hour lunch. You don't answer the phone for that hour. You come back, you spend the next half an hour checking those messages and doing whatever and continue with work. You've got to structure yourself, because what will happen if you keep going and going and going? You will burn out. And when you burn out, all you do is either you call in sick off work, or you end up leaving the job that you love so much or you work so hard to build. And sometimes in a couple of seconds you're forgotten. So you have to look after yourself.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And number 3, I am big on conscious and unconscious bias. It's something that I've learned. We're living in a multicultural society, and we should not assume that the people we lead, we know them. And one of the things that I encourage leaders to do is, if you have people in your team who are from the perimeter and all of that, go to a restaurant that represents them. Watch a movie that represents them. Do something, talk with them, build a relationship with them. Learn about people. It reduces mistakes, because some of the time the mistakes we make are genuine, when we assume we have no intent and purpose to offend, but because we are ignorant, we cannot best support these people. We cannot see their potential. We do not understand when they speak. So it leads to lots of unnecessary issues.
Yeah.
Don't learn about the people around you, the people we are leading and the people we are led by. Yeah. Understand them. And if they don't come to you, what did we say about the mountain? Then if you can't go, then the mountain must come. Either way, somebody needs to make the first move. And I believe that building a relationship, good, strong, healthy relationship, which can last well beyond employment, is through reaching out to people. People don't always come to you. And as a leader, I think that's you're the one to reach out. So do learn about cultures, do learn about understanding the personalities that you have in the room. Some people, they are the personality they are because that's the way they're wired. And guess what? There's nothing wrong with it. How can you use this personality to develop your team, to make sure this person benefits, and to do good relationship building, and all of this collectively will make your business successful, and within success I also mean profitable, financially profitable. So, having good relationship is important. Understanding who you're leading and who you're led by, important. And the initiative, I always say, will have to be that of the leader. Those are my 3 points.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And I think that last point's a really interesting one because especially when you're in London or,
Yeah.
I mean, well, regardless of where you are in the world, I think there's a perception, and I don't believe it's a reality, that we live in a more polarized society, right? So there's this right and wrong, and actually we're all flawed. We're all shades of grey. We've all got interesting things about us and stuff that you might not like, but it's about understanding that there's more that unites us than actually divides us. And I think if you start from that attitude and go, actually, you're really interesting, that's the starting point you come from. How do you feel about that?
That is so true. And I'll take, for example, if you were born, well, I'm from Jamaica originally. So let's just say I'm from Jamaica, I come from humble beginning. You come here, the person here in England from humble beginnings, you will have a lot in common. I don't care what color you are, what race, what creed, you will have a lot in common. You will be able to relate to a lot of things. You will see things differently, and you will take that value system to work. Now, I don't need to know all of that as a leader per se, but if I understand a little bit about that background, just by talking to you, relating to you, visiting somewhere, visiting, let's just say, a Jamaican restaurant, I'll understand why you like a lot of pepper in your food and why you think mine is bland. Things like that. And when you're ordering a Christmas dinner, you know what to consider for the menu, because there are those of us who, things like that will... when somebody looks, they will go, oh, this person has considered me.
Yeah.
And guess what? Out of that little act, they'll put in more effort at work.
Yeah.
Simple little things like that.
I mean,
people love to be appreciated for whatever it is, just for being themselves. And
Yeah,
for
100%.
whatever it is they contribute, they would like to be encouraged, and that's just human nature. So understanding people is really important, and it helps to get rid of paperwork in HR over things that could have easily been straightened out or not happened at all.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, Jamaican food is possibly I do like curries, but Jamaican food is amazing. And we've got a catering business around the corner from us that does the just most amazing Jamaican food. Saltfish is just, I could eat saltfish all day. Jerk chicken, really. Jerk chicken, I'm a bit ambivalent about. It depends on how strong it is, because I haven't got that sort of temperate, like, well, it depends on how hot it is. If it's too hot, it just doesn't suit me. But saltfish,
May I
open.
tell you something? With jerk chicken, we can jerk it without all the pepper, and then you get to apply it after. The point of jerk chicken is the leaf and the wood that is cooked on.
Okay.
And that's what. Yes, and it's usually the pimento, and that infuses the chicken. And we have all these spices to like scallions, pimento, well, the pepper. The pepper will be there, but what we find for the tourist area, we don't put a lot of that. We wait until people come and to be served, then they can apply what, but it will have a little, it can't not have none.
No, amazing. And thanks for the offer of cooking me dinner when lockdown's over. I really appreciate that because
I love a good cook-up. You definitely can come.
Good stuff. Right, we've talked about those three important things and what you've learnt from healthcare. What other traits do you think business leaders should try to develop? I was gonna use the word traits business leaders have, but in my experience, you start a business and actually you're learning as you go along, aren't you? So what traits do you think business leaders need to learn to develop?
Well, open-mindedness is one that comes to mind. That's a good quality. When people bring ideas to you, it might not look to you, you might not see it a certain way, but having that open mind, even to try it on a smaller scale, to pilot it. Sometimes people have a visual, but you don't get it just yet, depending on who you are. And as I said before, we're different personality types. So you have some of us who will rush in and go, and if it doesn't work, we just do away with it. And you have some of us who will have to study and look into the matter and weigh the pros and the cons. Whoever you are, whatever the personality type, having an open mind is good. It keeps you current. It grows your business. It helps your team to develop and to grow. And when I said it grow, it really diversify how you think, your mindset as well. So it takes away the fear of trying new things, taking a risk. And taking a risk is a big thing. It's a big deal. But when you're open-minded, it allows you with decision making, and it sharpens your skill for the decision, because you would have seen certain things already, you'd have had certain experiences before, and you would have known how it went and so on. So definitely open-mindedness. The next one is how you present yourself in person. How do you present that? Are you well put together for whatever it is that you're doing? So if you're painting and if you do a paint and decorate a job, you turn up for the job, you can have on a nice polo shirt with your low bottom that looks, really decent. These things matter because people look at you within 10 seconds. Some impressions have started to be formed. And sometimes that's what it takes. If two people are standing there, they might just choose somebody based on how they appear. And I can tell you this for free. Your personality and how you are, it shows in how you look. You carry that, you wear that as well.
If that's the case, I'm in a lot of trouble. I genuinely. I mean, if that is the case, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because sort of, I think I dress okay. I think I'm a typical bloke. And years ago, when I used to work in corporates, it always used to be the world of finance. Always used to be suit, tie, shirt, and I think things have changed over the years, and I tend to adopt a bit more of a not casual. I still try and sort of make a bit of an effort, but just a bit more of a less tied down look.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's interesting. You
can still look really good with that. A lot of people are not wearing jackets. I don't. When I was at work, I'd be like suit and jacket that morning and so on. I don't do that now. But you still have to put yourself together well. There has to be something. If you have a certain shape, you gotta wear stuff that suits the shape. Simple things like that. It's not necessarily a jacket and a tie and a corporate look. It's knowing how you are and looking professional for business, and your style should be something that complements you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that is important.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I have got a thing at the minute for really bad shirts, and the reality is, Claudia, I think I might need your help in the future breaking that habit. So, talk to me a little bit about. I know you. I know you do a lot of executive coaching. Help me understand a little bit about, because one of the things that I always wonder is sometimes the people who need coaching the most are the ones that are the least receptive to it, right? Do you think you need to be coachable or ready for coaching to actually engage with a coach? I'll give you an example. So certainly in our world, whilst we're not coaches, we want to really help people do what you do, achieve their goals using money as a tool, right? So that's our job, using money as the facility, and if they've built up wealth, which most of our clients have, using that to live the life that they want. Okay, because I think I'm the same as you. I think time is more valuable than money, because that's the finite resource, and you should be doing what you do and what you love every single day. That I think that's really important. But sometimes people come to us, and in my head, I'm thinking I could have helped you more if we had longer to plan. But they weren't ready to come to us at that point. Is it the same in your world? Is it somebody needs to get to a point where they're coachable before you can actually engage and work with them? And how can you help get them to that point?
Okay, for some of the clients that I get, I will be doing, let's say I'm doing public speaker coaching. And as I'm doing that, I'm picking up tips, because what people don't understand, when you are coaching or mentoring, you do get to see deeper in the person than they wish to expose. So they'll tell you what they think you should know, but then as the coaching go along and the mentoring go along, you start to pick up what's really going on. And what I learned to do is be honest. I tell them straight up. So if from that they wish to, it's up to them from there on, I need to say, that they wish to continue or to be open to that sort of, it's a bit of an intrusion, I must say. But they have to be open to it and want to change or want to grow or want to develop. They have to. You cannot force anyone, but you can point it out. In some workplaces where managers have their appraisals and their appraisals are not favorable, they'll come to me, and it's never about the hard skill. They're usually good at their job, but they're bypassed for promotions and so on, simply because there are some fine-tuning of their skills that is needed. And some of the time they will tell you the bit that they wish for you to, they tell you what they think you should hear. But I've learned to read through that, and I will be honest as ever. I will say, this, you told me this, but this is what I hear. X, Y, and Z. And it's for them. Now, you can't coach or mentor people who don't want to be. And you have some people who will come to manipulate the system. They need to get something sorted so they can get the next promotion, and they come and be honest again. It has to be open, honest, but it is done with dignity intact, and it's done respectively. So, you can't coach people who don't want to be, but you can expose them to the fact that these are the things you can develop, and you can let them know what you can do for them. It's up to them in the long run to take it up, but yes, it will always be, otherwise they'll come and they'll waste their time with you.
Okay, that's amazing, and I 100% agree. And some people just take longer to get to the realization that they need some help, right? Now, I know part of your work is as a motivational speaker. We're recording, this is going out on Monday night on Facebook, and then it will go out on LinkedIn. But as we sit today, it's the first day of lockdown part 2. I need some motivation in my life. So share with me your most motivational story.
Okay. This is what I'll say to people. I'll just give you a timeline of my life, and I'll show you it can happen for anyone. I was born and raised in Jamaica, very humble beginnings, so humble that I got help from school. Teachers there would allow me to go to their classes for free because they saw the potential. And family members would help with things like my school fees and stuff. Very, very humble beginning. Whatever the reason, that's how life panned out. I never even dreamt of the fact that I would take a plane. Now we live somewhere near the airport and we used to see all these planes flying over to land, and they never even dawned on me that I would, even take a plane. That's how far back I was. Now, I had a mother who was determined that we have to be better. Some of us have people in our lives who are determined to make us shine. And it might not be a parent, it might be a family member, it might be a good friend. Mine was my mother. She is determined to have her kids shine. It will make us not continue in this line of humility, so to speak. And we attend church, yes. Most of my learning about speaking took place in church. You have to say your member verse and so on. My mom never goes to church and she cussed like a fisherman's wife. Very polar opposite. However, she ensures that we are attending church, we go to school, we're doing our homework, everything that needs to be done is done. Our intention is to make us shine. Now, I went through high school, the equivalent of grammar school, went through university with this light right behind me, buoying me up. My sisters and brothers, our family, we are close. We have learned a few tips that I'll share with you. One, whenever you have disagreements, whether in the workplace, in your family, anywhere, get together, talk it out. Once it is done, let it go. There is no room for holding and harboring grudges, for holding and harboring things that will make you sick, will affect your mind and your body. Let it go. Whenever we have arguments in our family, we sit at the dinner table, the breakfast table. My mother cooks a really good meal. It smells of the whole place, but we don't eat until we have aired the grievance and it is sorted. I approach my work in that very way. Remember, I'm talking about people around you who are making you shine, right? So that's one. The next one is whatever you're doing, do it well. Do not do anything half-heartedly. It's a waste of time. And it reflects really badly on you, the individual, if you are not giving your whole. Now, it doesn't mean when you're doing something, it has to be for you. It could simply be for somebody else. But doing it as though you would like that person to do it for you, do it exactly that way. Put what you have put in it if you were doing it for yourself. So whatever you do it extremely well. Give it your best. If your best is not good enough, then you can improve. But when you give the best of you, guess what? Even if it doesn't come out ideal, that love and effectiveness will come out of it and people will sense it. 3, forgiveness. You go to work. You're in a relationship, didn't work out. Thank the person for the time they've spent with you. You've learned, move on. Forgiveness is one of the biggest things that holds people back. And it causes you to have fear of going out and exploring new horizons, fear of seeing a better self, and fear of knowing that something or something better is out there for you. So let it go. Forgive.
You know what?
One last thing. All these things I wrap up nicely to say. My mother pushed so that I can stay here and talk to you today. People are around you who want to see you do well. Embrace them and thank them and let them continue to buoy you up. You also buoy someone up.
Yeah, love it.
Absolutely love it. So, couple of comments on that. Number one, consider me motivated. That was really good. Number two, I'm from a similar sort of background to you in terms of coming from a family that probably wasn't as economically as bad off, but because I was born in East London, but certainly I've been lucky with the opportunities that I've taken. And when I look back, a lot of that was based on my mum and dad saying, doesn't matter where you're from, it matters where you're going. And trying best. And I've been lucky enough to give opportunities to other people through employment in my business and through a number of stuff I've done. I teach at a local kids' school, financial education, so I can develop the skills of the future society. And we do that because we believe in doing well and doing good. What was really interesting, so there was two things that so I think that parental influence, regardless of where you're from, and the attitude of your parents is fundamentally important. I'm 100% with you with the forgiveness thing. I'd come at it from a different approach because I read a lot of. There's a really amazing book called "The Obstacle Is the Way" that talks about Stoic philosophy, and one of the Stoic philosophical teachings is don't worry about what you can't control. You know, it's easier said than done. But certainly that past history, you know, what's happened in the past and the mistakes that either you or other people have made, you can't change it. You know, there's no point in stressing and worrying over the past. So you've got to use forgiveness to get over it. And then the last thing that made me really, really laugh, because you can't see me when we're doing this interview, you didn't realise I was chuckling so much. I love the phrase, cuss like a fisherman's wife. I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard that. So I'm going to find a way to use that over the course of the next week.
No offense to fishermen's wives.
Well, look, I don't think we've got that many fishermen's wives who actually tune into the show. But if we have, we're sorry we offended you, and we just want to know whether you cuss a lot. So, what does the future hold for you and Be Empowered? You talk about sort of grabbing hold of it and sort of guiding it to doing work you love. What does that look like in the next 5-10 years for you? What does it look like?
Okay, so with Be Empowered, this is what I want to retire on and go beyond. I don't even know if there's a word for retirement for me. I know what I'm like. I'm wired to go. So for Be Empowered, I'd love to see it more clientele, of course, to see it grow, to serve more people. I'd love to take it internationally. I'm relatively, I'd say national at the moment, and I have 1 or 2 clients abroad, but I'd love to take it on the road, so to speak. So I'm from the Caribbean. I'd like to go back there and share that. I'd like to go to countries all over the world who will have me. Definitely. One of my dreams, and I'm working on that, is to have a farm. And this is how it's going to pan out. My farm is going to be set up with whatever is on it, animals and plants. But I would love to have a school, a Be Empowered school, where people can come in and it will be aimed at managers and leaders to just come in for a weekend. It's like a stay on the weekend type of thing, or stay for the week. Come and chill out, beautiful environment, not too much, not too fast paced, and just have a life on a farm and being taught how to be great leaders in that natural environment. So I have big dreams and big hopes, and I'm working on them. And my biggest thing is, once I've done that, to support wherever I'm based, support the local environment. So if there's a kiddie school, support people in the environment, provide work for people and so on the farm and in my business as well. So I have loads of dreams. I'm constantly dreaming, but I'm making sure that as many of them as possible can be realized.
You know what's interesting, and I'll send you the link when we're done, but there's a guy that we do there's a couple actually, Peter and Hillary, that we do some work with. And we interviewed Peter for a previous Cervello Live. And Peter's business is helping executives decide what's next in their life, very similar to you. and he runs, before lockdown happened, he runs retreats in Ireland. So he'll fly sort of 20 people out to Ireland and just help them to sort of work out what's next. And I'll send you the interview because I think you'll get a lot out of it. But Peter's approach is, the reason that we do that is because we want to take them out of that day-to-day environment so they can start to make some decisions that because you probably see it in the medical world, don't you? You know, you get into the hospital when it's game face, and you've got to perform as expected in that team. Whereas
it sucks you in.
Yes.
yeah, so it's interesting. But I will send you that link because I think you'll get a lot out of that interview. Where can people find out all about you then? If they've been motivated and inspired, where can they sort of find out about you?
If you've been motivated and inspired and you love to have a chat with me, my website is beempowered.com. And I am also on LinkedIn under my name, Claudia Welsh. And there is one called Be Empowered A1, but Claudia Welsh has been boosted quite nicely and I like it. So I'm on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook, though not as much. So my base is mainly LinkedIn and my website.
Right.
And you can, yes, you also can send me an email at claudia@beempowered.a1.com. And all the other details are there on LinkedIn and on my website.
Amazing. And we'll make sure that when we post this online, they're on the show notes so that people can find you where they are. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's just what I needed for the start of lockdown. So I really appreciate you spending the time, and have a lovely day.
So that was the interview. Hope you got a decent amount out of it. I certainly did. Certainly getting fresh perspectives on leadership, on development, and on the things I should consider when I'm thinking about my business is always useful. Hopefully it was for you too. If you need to get in touch with us, feel free. Hope you're enjoying these Cervello Lives, and have a lovely day.